Ethan Cole stepped carefully through the thick vines of Virel's jungle. The air was heavy with the smell of wet earth and strange flowers that glowed faintly under the dim light of the moon. Birds with silver feathers called out in strange songs, and small creatures scurried past his boots. He adjusted his pack and looked at the readings on his small scanner. The numbers jumped and flickered as if something powerful was nearby. Most of the team had refused to follow him this far into the jungle. They said it was too dangerous, too wild. But Ethan felt a strange pull toward the signal. Earlier that day, the Faroon diplomats and traders had laughed at him again. They were tall, thin, and covered in shimmering scales. Their faces angular and eyes sharp, they called humans soft, fragile, slow. "You wanderers can barely climb the vines without tripping," one had sneered. Ethan forced himself to ignore it. He had heard their laughter many times before. The Faroon thought humans were weak, but he had a quiet determination inside him. They did not know what humans were capable of. The jungle was thick, almost like a living wall pressing on him from all sides. Ethan moved slowly, stepping over roots and ducking under hanging branches. His boots sank slightly into the damp soil. He stopped suddenly when he saw a faint glow through the trees. It was soft, almost pulsing, as if the jungle itself was breathing. He checked the scanner. The readings were high, much higher than anything he had seen before. He whispered to himself, "This is it. This is what they don't want anyone to find." Hours passed. The jungle became darker, and strange sounds echoed all around him. At one point, a branch snapped behind him, and he spun quickly. But there was nothing there. Ethan's heart beat faster. Fear was there, but he also felt excitement. Something was waiting for him deeper inside. Something the galaxy had forgotten. Finally, he reached a clearing. At first, he thought it was just a pile of rocks covered in moss. But as he stepped closer, he saw the smooth edges of metal beneath the vines. His eyes widened. It was huge, far bigger than any building he had ever seen. The surface was covered in symbols that glowed faintly. They were strange, not like any language he had studied. He wiped away some of the moss with his sleeve, revealing more glowing lines. His hand trembled slightly. A soft hum filled the clearing. Ethan froze. The sound was low, almost like a heartbeat. It seemed to come from the metal structure itself. He took a careful step closer. The closer he got, the stronger the hum became. His scanner was going wild. Lights flashing and numbers spinning. "What is this?" he whispered. "This is old. Really old." He remembered the stories he had read as a child, about ancient civilizations that had vanished long before humans traveled the stars. Could this be one of them? Could it be something the galaxy had lost? His mind raced. He had no idea what he would find inside, but he knew he had to go forward. He pressed his hand against the metal wall. A small panel lit up, glowing blue. Symbols shifted and moved as if responding to his touch. The hum grew louder. Ethan stepped back, startled, but curiosity pushed him forward again. Suddenly, a section of the wall slid open, revealing a dark chamber inside. His eyes adjusted to the shadows, and he could see the faint outlines of machinery. It was enormous, bigger than any ship or building he had seen. He took a deep breath and stepped inside. The air was cool and smelled faintly of metal and oil. The floor was smooth, polished, and strangely clean despite the jungle outside. Lights along the walls blinked on one by one. Ethan's heart pounded. He could not believe what he was seeing. He walked slowly, running his hand along a railing. Symbols glowed faintly under his touch, almost like the structure was alive. Then he saw it. A ship. Not just any ship, but a warship. Its hull was massive, sleek, and covered in strange carvings. The design was unlike anything humans or aliens had built in the past 1,000 years. The hum he had heard was coming from the ship itself. Ethan stared, speechless. He had discovered something incredible. Something that could change everything. A soft voice echoed in the chamber. It was calm, and almost musical. "Identify yourself." Ethan jumped and looked around. The voice continued, seeming to come from everywhere at once. "Do not be afraid. Speak your name." Ethan swallowed hard. I am Ethan Cole, human, from Earth." The hum shifted, almost like a smile. Lights along the hull brightened, and panels slid open. The ship seemed to awaken. Ethan could feel a strange energy coursing through the chamber. It was as if the ship had been waiting for someone like him. He did not fully understand, but he felt a connection to it, a warm, reassuring presence that told him he was meant to be here. Meanwhile, back at the research camp, the Faroon diplomats and guards noticed strange energy spikes on their scanners. They laughed at first, assuming it was just some malfunction. "Humans will touch everything and break it," one said. "Ethan is probably lost again," another added. But the readings grew stronger, more erratic. They frowned and whispered among themselves, unsure of what was happening. Ethan spent the next hours exploring the interior of the ship. It was enormous. Corridors stretched in every direction, filled with consoles and strange machines. He ran his fingers along control panels, which lit up under his touch. Symbols and lights shifted as if responding to him. He realized the ship was alive. Not just a machine, but a sentient being. It had its own intelligence, waiting for someone capable of understanding it. As night fell over the jungle, Ethan sat on a raised platform inside the ship, gazing at the glowing controls. He felt both fear and wonder. The galaxy had mocked humans for so long. Aliens laughed at their technology, their bodies, their speed, but now, Ethan held something they could not even dream of, something ancient and powerful. He thought about the Faroon and other species. They had always seen humans as weak. They had never imagined that a human could awaken a warship from a lost civilization. Ethan smiled quietly to himself. One day, they would see. One day, the galaxy would learn that humans were not to be underestimated. Suddenly, a shadow moved outside the chamber entrance. Ethan froze. He held his breath and watched. A small group of Faroon scouts had entered the clearing, sneaking toward the metal structure. They looked confused, then startled. As the hum grew louder and the ship's lights brightened, Ethan realized they had followed him. He took a deep breath and stepped forward. "Stay back," he called. His voice echoed in the chamber. The scouts stopped, but did not move away. The ship responded, sending out a low pulse that shook the ground slightly. The Faroon stumbled back, eyes wide with fear. Ethan realized for the first time that the ship was protecting him. The scouts whispered among themselves. They had mocked humans all their lives, but now they were terrified. A human had found something they could not even control, something that made the ground shake and the air hum with power. Ethan felt a strange pride. The galaxy had laughed at humans, but that laughter was about to end. He returned to the platform and sat down again, letting the hum of the ship calm him. The jungle outside was quiet. The moonlight filtered through the thick canopy, shining on the vines that hid the chamber. Ethan knew this was only the beginning. He did not yet understand the full power of the ship, but he would learn, and when he did, no alien would ever look at humans the same way again. Hours passed, and Ethan explored deeper into the ship. He found rooms with strange objects, glowing crystals, and panels that showed star maps of places he had never heard of. The ship whispered guidance to him, explaining in simple ways he could understand. It told him it had been waiting for someone with his mind, his courage, and his heart. Ethan felt the weight of responsibility, but also a strange excitement. Outside, the Faroon scouts returned to their camp and reported their findings. "It is alive," one said, voice trembling. "A human, a simple human, is controlling it." Their laughter from before had completely disappeared. Fear replaced mockery. For the first time, the galaxy's laughter at humans sounded foolish even to them. Ethan did not sleep that night. He sat at the control platform, learning from the ship, feeling its power, and imagining the possibilities. The jungle was quiet around him, but he could hear the distant whispers of the forest and the hum of the ship. Somewhere deep inside, he felt a promise. Humans would no longer be mocked. Humans would be counted among the stars, and he, Ethan Cole, was the one to start it. The first chapter of his journey had begun. The galaxy had laughed at him, at his species, at humanity. But in the heart of a hidden jungle, Ethan had found something they could never predict. Power, wisdom, and courage, wrapped inside an ancient warship, waiting for a human to awaken it. The morning light filtered through the jungle canopy, painting the clearing in soft shades of green and gold. Ethan Cole sat on the edge of the warship's platform, staring at the glowing panels. He had spent the entire night learning the basics. The ship, which called itself Astra, had spoken to him in ways he could understand. It had shown him how to open doors, how to move lights, and how to power systems that seemed ancient and complex. It felt alive. It breathed, almost, in the way it hummed and pulsed beneath his hands. Ethan knew he had to learn more. He did not understand the full extent of its power yet, but he sensed it was enormous. The Faroon scouts who had stumbled upon the clearing the night before had returned to their camp in fear. Word would spread fast across the jungle moon, but Ethan could not worry about that now. He had discovered something no one else could touch, and he intended to explore it fully. He stepped down into a corridor, following the soft blue light that lined the walls. The ship's surfaces were smooth, almost liquid in appearance, and strange symbols floated above his head, shifting when he passed beneath them. He reached a room filled with consoles and glowing crystals. The crystals seemed to hum in harmony with the ship itself. Ethan pressed a panel, and a map appeared in midair. Stars and planets, some he had never seen, rotated slowly before him. Astra spoke in his mind again. These are the systems we once watched over. They are old, and some are lost. You must learn their ways if you are to survive. Ethan nodded. Even though the ship could not see him, he felt a strange connection, like it understood him, and he understood it. I will learn, he said. I will do whatever it takes. The hum of the ship grew louder as he explored more rooms. Some contained strange devices that looked like weapons, but their purpose was unclear. Others had seats and controls, indicating that the ship was designed for a crew, yet it spoke as if it only needed one operator. Him. The thought both excited and frightened Ethan. A human controlling a ship of such scale was something the galaxy had never imagined. Outside, the jungle was stirring. Birds and animals moved nervously. Alien researchers from nearby outposts had begun noticing unusual energy spikes coming from Varel. At first, they assumed it was a minor malfunction, something a human could not understand. But as the energy readings continued to grow, they grew uneasy. A few groups of scouts and traders whispered among themselves about the human in the jungle and what he might have discovered. Ethan did not care about their whispers. He focused on Astra. The ship began to teach him about its systems. It showed him the engines, the shields, the energy sources. Each system was far more advanced than anything humans or aliens had built. He learned how to activate the lights, how to move the ship's smaller drones, and how to read the holographic star maps. It was like learning a language, one that had been forgotten for thousands of years. Astra's voice guided him. You have the gene we were waiting for. It allows you to connect with me. Without it, no other species could awaken this ship. Ethan felt a shiver run down his spine. He realized that the galaxy's laughter at humans had been based on ignorance. They did not know what humans were capable of. A human had survived, thrived, and now controlled a weapon older than any living species. Hours passed as he explored. He found a small room filled with strange suits, not like any spacesuit he had seen. They seemed to adapt to the wearer automatically, responding to body temperature, strength, and even thought. Ethan tried one on. It fit perfectly, molding to his shape and activating displays in his vision. Astra explained that it could enhance his reflexes, strength, and stamina. Humans had been underestimated for centuries, and now he had tools that made him more than capable. Meanwhile, the Faroon scouts returned to their leaders. They spoke quickly, their voices full of fear. "It is true," one said. "The human has awoken something old, something dangerous. I do not think any of us can stop it." Their leaders laughed at first, dismissing the report as exaggeration, but the scanners showed the readings. They could not ignore them. The energy pulses were unlike anything they had encountered. Fear replaced mockery. For the first time, they understood that humans were not to be trifled with. Ethan continued his exploration and found the ship's weapons systems. He had been careful, avoiding activation. Astra explained each system gently. "These weapons are defensive and offensive. They can protect you or stop an enemy from harming you. But you must learn control. Power without understanding is dangerous." Ethan nodded, impressed. The ship was teaching him responsibility, not just giving him tools. He liked that. Humans had always valued courage and judgment over simple strength. A sudden sound from outside caught his attention. The leaves rustled violently, and he saw shadows moving along the clearing. He quickly looked at the scanner. Alien scouts, possibly Faroon or others, were entering the jungle. Ethan's heart raced. They wanted to see what he had discovered. He realized he could not hide Astra forever. If they got too close, it could lead to conflict. He pressed a panel, and the ship's defenses activated. Lights along the hull glowed brightly. Drones lifted from hidden compartments and hovered silently around him. Ethan did not touch them. They responded automatically, sensing danger. The aliens stepped cautiously into the clearing, only to freeze at the sight of the glowing ship. Some whispered among themselves, trying to remain brave. But fear was clear in their eyes. A human was inside, controlling a warship older than their own fleets. Ethan's voice echoed through the chamber. "I am not your enemy. Stay back." The aliens hesitated. Their weapons were drawn, but the drones created a barrier that blocked any approach. Ethan realized that the ship's presence alone could keep them from attacking. For the first time, humans had power in the eyes of the galaxy. He spent the rest of the day exploring further. He found rooms filled with old records, logs of star systems, maps of ancient battles, and holographic images of ships and planets. The Solari, the ship's creators, had once ruled parts of the galaxy, defending systems from a terrible enemy long forgotten. Ethan felt a sense of awe. He was holding the legacy of a civilization older than any current species, and it had chosen him to carry it forward. The aliens outside returned to their camps, spreading reports. Their laughter was gone. In its place was fear and confusion. Humans had been mocked for centuries, but now, one human had changed the story. Ethan thought about this quietly. The galaxy would soon learn that humans were not weak, not slow, not fragile. They were clever, brave, and capable of awakening power older than the stars. Night fell over the jungle again. Ethan stood on the platform, gazing out at the dense trees. The ship's hum was comforting, almost like a heartbeat. He touched the railing and felt its warmth. He realized that this was just the beginning. He had awakened Astra, but he had much to learn. Systems, weapons, star maps, energy sources, everything was new. And yet, he felt ready. Humans had survived and thrived in impossible situations before. This was no different. Suddenly, the ship projected a holographic image before him. It showed a fleet of ships approaching from deep space. Ethan recognized the shape's aliens known for conquest and war. They had heard the reports and were coming to seize Astra. Fear could have frozen him, but he did not feel it. Instead, he felt determination. The galaxy had laughed at humans for too long. Now, it was time to show them what a human could do. He ran through the corridors, activating shields, preparing the ship's systems, and learning quickly. Astra responded to him immediately, its systems linking with his mind. He could feel the energy flowing through the ship, powerful but controlled. He could feel its guidance, its intelligence, and its trust. He was not just a human with a ship. He was the ship's operator, its partner. Together, they would face whatever came. Outside, the first scouts of the alien fleet arrived. They hovered at the edge of the jungle clearing, trying to understand the glowing warship. Ethan activated a defense system, and the ground trembled slightly. Drones lifted, scanning the intruders. The aliens whispered among themselves, unsure if they could even approach. The human who had been mocked was now a force beyond their understanding. Ethan took a deep breath. He would not strike first. He wanted peace if possible. But he knew the galaxy would soon have to understand the truth. Humans were no longer weak. Humans could awaken power long forgotten, and a human now stood ready, controlling a weapon older than most civilizations alive today. The night passed with tension in the air. Ethan continued exploring and learning, mastering the ship step by step. The aliens remained cautious outside, too afraid to approach. For the first time, Ethan felt the power of choice, the responsibility of strength, and the pride of proving that humans were not to be mocked. As the jungle slept, the hum of the ship echoed in harmony with the pulse of the moonlight. Ethan smiled quietly to himself. The galaxy had laughed at humans. That laughter was ending, and from the heart of a hidden jungle, a human had begun to awaken something the universe had almost forgotten. The jungle of Virel was quiet in the early morning. Mist curled between the trees, and the soft light of dawn made the leaves shine like silver. Ethan Cole stood on the platform of the warship, Astra, looking out at the clearing below. He had spent the last day learning the ship's systems, understanding the energy flows, the shields, and the drones. He knew the aliens outside were watching. Some had fled in fear, others were waiting, trying to understand the power a human had awakened. A warning flashed on one of the ship's consoles. Ethan approached and saw that a group of alien scouts, led by the Varnak species, were approaching the jungle. The Varnak were known as aggressive raiders, strong and merciless. They had heard the reports of a human with a lost warship and wanted to take it for themselves. Ethan's heart raced, but he did not panic. Astra hummed softly, a calm presence in the chaos of his thoughts. "You do not need to fear them," the ship said in his mind. "They will test you. But you have the connection. You are ready to defend yourself." Ethan nodded. He touched the glowing panel, and the ship's drones lifted, hovering silently around the platform. They formed a protective circle, ready to respond to any threat. Outside, the Varnak scouts moved carefully. They were armed and prepared, expecting a human to be weak. When they saw the glowing ship and the drones, their eyes widened in disbelief. One of them called out in their harsh language, demanding the human surrender. Ethan did not respond. He trusted Astra. The ship's shields activated, forming a barrier of soft blue energy around the clearing. The ground trembled slightly as the energy stabilized. Ethan moved to the control platform. He had learned how to access the ship's weapons, but he hesitated. He did not want to start a war. Astra's voice guided him. Use them only if necessary. Show strength, but choose mercy first. Ethan nodded and pressed a few controls. Small drones moved forward, scanning the Varnak ships. They did not fire. Instead, they sent pulses of energy that disrupted the raiders' scanners, making their weapons useless. The Varnak froze. They had expected to overpower a human with ease, but their weapons no longer worked. Panic spread among them. Ethan felt a quiet satisfaction. He was still cautious, but he understood something important. Strength was not just about attacking. It was about control and precision. He had awakened a power the galaxy had forgotten, and he could use it wisely. The day passed slowly. Ethan explored deeper inside Astra. He found rooms filled with strange weapons, star maps, and ancient records. Some rooms had strange suits that adapted to the wearer, increasing speed, strength, and reflexes. He tried one on, feeling the immediate difference in his movements. Humans were underestimated in the galaxy, but now he had tools to match any alien strength. Meanwhile, outside the jungle, more alien ships arrived. Word of the human with Astra had spread. The Faroon, the Varnak, and smaller species all sent scouts and fleets. They assumed the human would surrender or be crushed. But when they reached Virel, they saw the glowing warship and the human standing on its platform. Fear replaced their laughter. They had mocked humans for centuries. Now they realized a human could command a power far beyond their understanding. Ethan spent hours learning how to move the warship. He could lift it slowly from the ground, hover above the jungle, and even navigate using the holographic star maps. Astra guided him every step, explaining controls in a way he could understand. The connection between human and ship was strong. The ship reacted to his thoughts, his movements, and his decisions. For the first time, Ethan felt he was not just learning a tool, he was becoming part of something larger, something alive. The first confrontation began in the late afternoon. A Varnak scout ship tried to move closer to the clearing. Ethan raised his hand, and Astra activated a soft pulse that disabled the scout's engines. The ship drifted harmlessly back into the jungle edge. Ethan watched it, feeling no hatred. He understood that this was a test, not a battle yet. His power was not just in weapons, it was in intelligence, patience, and control. Alien communications buzzed across the jungle. The Faroon sent envoys to demand the human surrender. They said humans were too weak, too fragile, and too small to control such a weapon. Ethan smiled quietly to himself. They did not understand that strength was more than muscle. Courage, wisdom, and determination counted as well. Astra's hum seemed to echo his thoughts. Together, they were a force the galaxy could not ignore. Evening fell. The sky turned shades of orange and purple. Ethan stood on the ship's platform, watching as alien scouts reported to their fleets. He knew they were planning to return with more ships, larger fleets. The galaxy would not accept that a human had control of Astra. But he felt ready. He had learned enough about the ship to defend himself. He had learned the importance of patience, and he had begun to understand the history of the Solari, the ship's creators. Astra showed him images of long-ago battles, fleets of ships fighting enemies that had nearly destroyed life across many systems. The Solari had been powerful, but they had vanished, leaving only their technology behind. Ethan realized the galaxy had forgotten how dangerous and advanced the Solari had been. And now, a human was connected to that power. He felt both pride and responsibility. The laughter of the aliens would not return. They would see that humans were capable of more than anyone expected. Suddenly, alarms sounded. Ethan looked at the sensors. A group of Varnak warships was approaching fast. They were larger and stronger than the scouts before. They had weapons designed to destroy most fleets in the galaxy, but Astra responded immediately. Shields rose higher, drones formed tight formations, and defense systems activated. Ethan's heart pounded. This was no longer a test. The Varnak had come to take the ship by force. Ethan took a deep breath. He moved to the control platform, placing his hands on the glowing panels. The ship responded instantly. Lights along the hull brightened, engines powered up, and energy flowed through the drones. Ethan felt a surge of confidence. He was no longer just a human in a jungle. He was the operator of a warship older than any living species. The galaxy had mocked humans. But that mockery ended here. The Varnak fired first. Missiles streaked through the sky, aimed at the clearing. Ethan did not panic. He pressed a few controls, and Astra's system sent a pulse of energy that disarmed every missile in midair. The explosions of the missiles fizzled harmlessly as they hit invisible shields. The Varnak paused, unsure what they were seeing. A human had stopped their weapons without touching them. Fear spread among their ranks. Ethan smiled quietly. He had not harmed anyone. He only defended himself. He raised his hand again, and the drones hovered above the clearing, forming barriers and scanning for any movement. The Varnak tried to board, but the shields prevented them. For the first time, They realized the human was not weak. This human controlled a power they could not match. The warship, the ancient weapon, and the intelligence guiding it made them hesitate. Night fell completely. The jungle was quiet again. But Ethan stayed alert. He explored more of Astra, learning its controls, energy systems, and navigation. He discovered small Solari drones stored in hidden compartments. The drones were tiny, agile, and responsive. Astra showed him how to command them, linking them to his mind. These drones could act as scouts, defense units, or messengers across the galaxy. A human could now project influence far beyond Earth. Outside, alien fleets communicated in panic. Their reports of the glowing ship, the human operator, and the powerful drones spread quickly. The laughter they had once held toward humans was gone. Now, they feared what a single human could do. They began to consider retreat, at least for now. They did not understand the ship's full power, and they did not realize that the human in the jungle had courage, patience, and intelligence to match it. Ethan spent the next hours preparing. He set up small patrol drones around the clearing, adjusted the ship's shields, and monitored the sensors for alien movements. He understood that the galaxy would not leave him alone. There would be tests, attacks, and challenges. But he felt ready. Astra trusted him, and he trusted Astra. Together, they could face whatever came next. Finally, he took a moment to rest on the platform. The stars above the jungle were bright, shining through breaks in the canopy. He thought of Earth, of humans mocked across the stars, and he smiled. The galaxy would learn that humans were not weak, not fragile, and not slow. Humans could awaken the power of civilizations, long forgotten, and a human now stood at the center of that power, ready to show the universe what humanity could do.